In case you never realized this, every single one of your problems, the overthinking, the anxiety, the constant negative thoughts, all stems from one place. The random, unreliable mental dialogue going in your head, probably even right now. You see, overthinking is one of those subjects that many people are afflicted with, but no one truly knows the reason why, or even where it comes from. There's this constant dialogue back and forth with ourselves, and yet no one ever talks about it. No one ever teaches about it, nor does anybody ever really talk about how to stop it and what can happen when you finally do stop the inner dialogue and finally have silence in your head. There's a book that I picked up not too long ago called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And in this book, he talks about not only this taboo almost subject of the inner dialogue, the insanity that is our head, and also how to overcome it. But you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can't say that you don't. You know, you sit there reading and you have this kind of a scene going on in your head at all times, and we're supposed to pretend like it's normal. You literally have no idea what they're saying, do you? Man, I'm tired. Did I remember to close the garage? Did we ever call our wife back? I should probably take out the trash. God, I'm bored. When are we gonna be done? See, it's pretty annoying, right? And again, we don't know why we do it, where it comes from, and even how to stop it. My favorite part about the book is how he explains this phenomenon that happens to us, this consciousness, and he calls it the inner roommate. He describes how honestly crazy it is that we have this person that if we imagine the inner dialogue in our head being an actual roommate, how often they change their mind about who we like, who we don't like, what we should be doing. They give you advice constantly, but most of the time they're wrong. Their track record, that inner dialogue, that track record of theirs isn't very good. Yet and still, we listen to this inner dialogue time and time again. It's driving us crazy, and yet we do nothing about it. We still go to this inner voice time and time again.
What's the matter with you, boy? You too stupid to do what your coach tells you? No. No what?
Imagine if this was somebody entirely different. It was a real roommate. Eventually, you would probably tell this inner roommate to shut the hell up, go somewhere else, or move out. But we're kind of stuck with it. But there is a way to go around this. According to Michael Singer, the first thing we have to do is understand that we are not our thoughts. There's this old philosopher named Descartes that he talked about how I think, therefore I am. And the key part of this is that there's a person that's thinking and the person that is, right? The person that exists. Michael Singer kind of explains this by stating that you are the one that sees, that hears, that views things. You are not the object, you're the subject. If you're looking at something, we know that, hey, I'm not this chair, I'm looking at this fire, I know I'm not the fire because guess what, I'm looking at it. So because we can hear the thought, we know that we are not the thought. This is why we constantly hear that thing that says you are not your thoughts. But how do we pull back? How do we not listen to that inner dialogue? How do we separate ourselves so we can actually finally find peace? In order to get that inner dialogue to shut the hell up, we don't have to tell it to shut up because then we just argue with our own mind. If you ever tried that, it feels kind of like insanity. Instead, what you do is you just become aware. You notice it and you just listen to it, and eventually it just passes by. This practice of becoming aware is the reason why people do yoga. Well, before like Bikram got it popular and people started doing it just for funsies, it used to be a practice about being one with yourself or to quiet the inside mind. And interestingly enough, I've only experienced this one time in my life. You know, that true quiet. And then I remember I went to this Wim Hof retreat. If you're not familiar with Wim Hof, it's this kind of extreme breathing method. And Wim Hof is the guy that kind of made it popular, I guess. And he's also known as the Iceman. He goes into the cold plunges, and arguably he's probably one of the most influential people in the cold space today. But anyway, I'm at this Wim Hof workshop learning how to do this breathing method. And in doing so, for the first time in my life, it was true quiet in my head. At first, of course, the inner dialogue speaking to me, man, this is dumb, this doesn't make any sense. But there's a combination of being in the cold plus this breathing method that my brain finally went silent. For the first time in my entire life, I felt peace. And look, I'm kind of like embarrassed to admit this a little bit, but I honestly got emotional because I never actually felt true silence before because my inner dialogue was always going. And so if you're one of those individuals that, you know, struggle with overthinking, you can't stop that constant flow of, but what if this happens, or what if this happens, or you shouldn't do that, and you're tired of it, we need to be able to pull back in that driver's seat and start observing. So here's kind of the recommendation that I would give, again, taking what Michael Singer says and what's worked for me. The first thing is going to the seat of consciousness, right? in your own mind. Don't engage with the voice in your head. Actually visualize yourself sitting in a seat far away from everything else, observing what's going on in our mind, the things that were being shown inside our head, the voices that are going on. Pull back, become a third-party view. If you want to picture yourself like a bird or something and overseeing your body, that's cool too. Whatever works for you. Again, what I like to do is imagine that I am the director of my life, that I'm behind the camera, the one seeing everything, and the inner dialogue is a character in the movie that I'm shooting. I don't know why it works, it just does for me. And if you're like me and you struggled with this kind of a concept, getting out of your head and into your body seems to work really, really well for me. Meaning, for example, doing something like yoga, doing something like jujitsu, or for me, like I mentioned earlier, doing the Wim Hof breathing method, which by the way, I'll put up a link in the description of the YouTube video. It's free, it's kind of cool. That's the one that I do all the time. And doing something like the cold plunge, something that distracts your body and helps you focus on the breathing will pull your inner dialogue out of your own head. At first, of course, it'll kick up and be like, what the hell are we doing? It's freezing in here, what are we? But eventually, if you focus on the breathing, the inner dialogue goes away and it'll finally be completely silent. So here's the thing. If you pick up the book, Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, it'll walk you through kind of the thought process behind the benefits of kind of leaving that inner dialogue behind, knowing that we'll never truly get rid of that inner dialogue. However, if we are able to observe it, that inner dialogue will finally get more quiet. And as a result, we can finally put more energy into the things that we're doing. Maybe get over that anxiety. Maybe get over that fear of starting a channel, starting a business, asking that person out on a date. Whatever that thing is, you can overcome it because that inner dialogue, that inner roommate, will finally be silent. So with that being said, that's it for this video. Go in the comments below and let me know your thoughts on the instructions that Michael Singer had gave in this book and any other suggestions that you have about getting rid of that inner dialogue so you can continue to go out there and succeed. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next video.